Hello, it's been a while once again. And if you ask how am I doing, well, not much has changed since the last time. But I've developed a growing addiction to old monophonic synths. Don't ask why, that's just the that's the thing right now. And I'm interested about their history, the way they are different from one synth to another, and what are the differences when it comes to filters, envelopes and whatever. And I've been asked, why are you so much into kind of limiting and outdated gear? Well, outdated, no they're not, because if you follow some forums or well, internet in general, it's easy to see that there's a renaissance going on when it comes to old analog synthesis. I mean, people have found it again, and obviously with Korg and Behringer releasing these remakes of classic synths like Minimoog and ARP Odyssey. And well, there are a lot of them. Pro 1 is one example. And those things, SH 101 and what was the drum machine, 303 I think, that was just released. There's a renaissance going on. People want to get something that's hands-on, because obviously working with plugins is a completely different thing than being able to manipulate the sound in real time. And what comes to limited, well, the argument I've heard the most is that, well, they're mono, you can't do anything with that. Well, guess what else is mono? Guitars, both electric and acoustic. Basses, both electric and acoustic. Drum set is basically a compilation of monophonic sound sources, but it's the way it's been set up that creates the stereo image to the listener. So if you want to have a stereo track with a monophonic synth, then you do what a guitar player would do. You double track it. It's not all that complicated, my son. So, and I like that kind of a hands-on feel what comes to. I was able to try a Behringer Model D. It's a Minimoog module. And well, I know someone who bought one of those, and they needed to drag me away from it. I was like, no, just 5 more minutes, because it's something you can physically touch. It's something you can physically manipulate while you're playing, and that's how those things were meant to be. I mean, for example, if you take a Minimoog, it's not meant for you to just get your settings and then play the keyboard. Those are meant to be played because since they're monophonic, you can only play one note at a time what comes to Minimoog. With the other hand, you should be manipulating your sounds. So it's a expressive instrument. So, well, and that brings me to a kind of another topic. You know that feeling when you're feeling a complete idiot because you've been searching for something, and then when you find it, you realize that it's been there all along. One of those things happened a bit while back, and now you have to get some time frame. I was born in very late 70s, so as I say, I'm an 80s kid, 90s teenager, and 2000s grown up. So when I was a kid, I had this little cassette player. And I was listening to cassettes I got from my parents, from my relatives. And I was also listening my dad's music collection. I mean, he had and still has quite a large collection of cassette tapes. And what's in those tapes? Well, he recorded songs from the radio back then. And he recorded, or he made cassette copies from LPs that someone else had. And you know the drill. If you are old enough to remember the days of cassette, you know the drill. Copies of copies of copies. Background hiss is unbearable. but those cassettes were, as far as I remember, those were listenable. And there were, you know, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Dr. Feelgood, Jethro Tull, Kansas, whatever you can imagine from the 70s, 60s, 70s, some 50s stuff. But anyway, well, he was and he still is rock and metal fan, so there were a lot of stuff. But then there were these few songs that had this strange sound in them, this weird sound that wasn't on any other songs that were on those cassette tapes. There were only, if I remember correctly, there were 2 or 3 songs where there was this weird sound. And when we were in my dad's car, he always has a radio on, and I wasn't able to hear those sounds in the radio or in the songs that were played on the radio. So then I asked my dad, what is that sound? Well, he said that it's a synthesizer. I said, no. Well, my dad plays electric organs and electric keyboards, so I knew that it's not electric organ or electric keyboard, but a synthesizer. And now we were in the 80s. So what were the synths of the 80s? Korgs, Rolands, Yamahas, and those things. So this is not a synthesizer. Well, it was a synth. It wasn't 80s synthesizer. A while back I was doing some file management on my computer, just making backup files, deleting things that I don't need anymore, something like that. And on my other screen I had a documentary about the evolution of synth pop, and it was just in the background. I was doing things, and then I heard that same sound again. It was kind of this descending electronic scream. I was like, whoa, hold the show, what's that? And I finally found out what that sound is. It's ARP Odyssey. But I've been messing around with the VST versions of the Odyssey, but there is this certain setting that I wasn't aware of, or I haven't been tinkering enough to find it. So it's ARP Odyssey with oscillators synced together, and then oscillator 2 is being manipulated with the ADSR, what comes to its frequency modulation, and that causes that loud scream, or that kind of a descending scream. And I also found out what band that was. It was Ultravox. So the reason why I haven't stumbled into that sound before, I've been listening to wrong music. Because when I think about 80s, well, to me 80s is 80s pop, 80s metal, and you know, stadium sounds. But the music I've been listening lately a lot has been late 70s, early 80s, this kind of new wave, and well, you can say goth rock or goth synth, however you want to call it. I don't know the categories for things. But anyways, you know that music that was done in the late 70s, early 80s, where there is this kind of a, well, in modern standards, anemic drum machine just doing basic beats, and on top of that there are synths, a guitar with, well, usually pretty clean guitar with chorus, and guy who's singing "You Will Be," those songs. Or if you are unlucky, there's a vocalist who can't really sing, he just basically screams and acts. He's like an actor on a big stage. Like, I don't remember the actor's name, but you can find this out for yourself. I think it's Richard III. There was this actor that created the character for a play, and that character was all over the place. And I mean, it wasn't all over the place, it was over the top, really. You know, these big dramatic movements and everything. So take a vocalist who can't sing, but who's kind of doing that bombastic thing with his voice, or trying to catch that kind of a British sense of drama with his voice, or his or hers voice, he, her, or well, whatever you understand. So, but now there is a situation of gear acquiring syndrome, because I want to get an Odyssey. Doesn't matter if it's Korg, doesn't matter if it's Behringer. I want to have one. Because once again, I have plenty of VST versions of the Odyssey. I want to get the real thing. And also my wife knows it also, because that's all I've been talking about for the past few weeks. I think it's almost a month now. So I'm addicted, but well, going back to what I said previously, the reason why people are saying that monosynths are outdated is that they don't seem to understand what those things are made for. I mean, if you want these big stereo pads, multi-timbral, multi-velocity pads, well, monosynths are not made for that. They're not meant to be used that way. I mean, obviously you can make arpeggios, you can make ARPs with them, no problem. And now with these newer products with built-in MIDI, it's easy. You just program what you want to hear in your DAW, and then you just play it through your synth. Analog synthesizer, so you don't need plugins. You can use hardware with computers nowadays because we have MIDI. But they're meant to be, they are instruments of expression. I mean, I often draw a line between guitars and these old monosynths because it's about expression. When you play guitar, especially when you're playing distorted electric guitar and you're playing leads or you're playing this kind of a single note riffs, same thing with analog monosynth. But you can bend, you can have vibrato, you can have all kinds of things to make it, to express yourself through your playing. And that's what those things are meant for. They're not meant for be used as pad instruments or these big Fantasia instruments. Obviously you can use them for that, but then you have to multi-track them. And I've tried to do these kind of a big stereo pads with Minimoog, or the VST version of a Minimoog. It's doable. You just have to multi-track a lot. But it's doable to have multi-timbral, multi-velocity pads. It just takes a lot of tracks. It's not a matter of pressing down 3 keys to form a chord. If you want to form a chord with a Minimoog, you basically need 3 tracks. Well, you can do it on 1 track if you tune all the oscillators to different voices and then just play 1 note, but then when the chord changes, you have to tune the whole thing all over again. So it's doable, but it takes time. And well, that's one thing that I feel a bit alienated about. If you watch these videos on YouTube, how to make certain style of music, it's almost always Ableton Live, it's FL Studio, and everything usually starts with get a good 808 kick, and that's when I'm out. Because why can't you make your own sounds? And now I don't mean why don't you record your own samples? That's not what I mean, although that's something you can do. But why do you have to make everything according to the book? Now take some other kick and don't sidechain it. And well, if you've watched how to make whatever bedroom pop or trap hop, mumble rap, trance, house, it's almost always the same procedure in every video. Basically the same samples, basically the same editing, basically the same channel chains. So, well, if you want to make generic whatever, then go for it. And it's a good way to learn. First, you learn how to do things the generic way, because that helps you to start branching out to other things. And that's why those videos are a good thing. So you can learn the basics, how to do something, and then you can start developing your own style. But I'm not a complete beginner anymore, so it feels numbing for me to watch those videos over and over again, where it's basically the same video over and over again. But it's getting dark and it's foggy, and it's what, about, it's not even 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So winter is here, although it's wet as heck, but still we can say that winter is here. And I don't have anything else to say that would even somewhat fluently continue this ramble, so until next time, see ya!